Have you ever noticed how some people push your boundaries, treating respect like it's optional? They interrupt, make snide remarks, or act like your time and emotions don't matter. Should you just grin and bear it? Not today. If you're fed up with tolerating people who don't show you respect, this video is for you. Today, I'll share some straightforward, even bold, ways to handle disrespect without losing your composure or compromising your self-respect. By the end, you'll have all the tools to set firm boundaries and make it clear where the line is. Let's jump in. 1. Embrace the silent stare. Alright, let's begin with one of my favorite, slightly savage techniques, the silent stare. You might be thinking, really? Just staring? Yes, trust me on this. When someone is being rude or disrespectful, nothing throws them off more than a calm, unbothered stare. Here's why it works. People who disrespect others are usually seeking a reaction. They want you to stammer, get flustered, maybe even snap back. They're trying to pull you into their drama, make you doubt yourself, or feel insignificant. But when you just stare at them, no words, no expressions, the power dynamic suddenly shifts. Now I get it, this might sound a little passive-aggressive, but hear me out. There's something unsettling about someone who doesn't get the reaction they were expecting. When you hold a calm, silent stare, you're silently saying, I'm not playing your game. It's a way to take back control without lifting a finger, and sometimes, that silent stare is the most powerful response. You don't have to say a word. Let me share a time when this technique worked like magic. I was in a group meeting, and one guy kept interrupting me, cutting me off as if it were his mission. You know the type. Loud, overconfident, acting like everyone's there to hear his brilliance. I tried to interject, stayed polite, but he wouldn't stop. So finally, I just stared at him. I leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms, and held his gaze. No blinking, no expression, just stared. For a full 5 seconds, I didn't say a word. You could feel the tension building. And the best part? Everyone else at the table started looking at him, waiting to see what he'd do. You know what happened next? He got uncomfortable, stumbled over his words, and suddenly avoided looking at me. He didn't interrupt me again for the rest of the meeting. That silent stare achieved more than words ever could, and it didn't just stop his behavior in that moment. He actually started treating me with more respect after that, as if he finally realized I wasn't someone he could push around. Sometimes, you have to show people who you are without saying a word. Let's dig deeper, because this is more than just a power move. The silent stare serves as a reminder, to them and to yourself, that you don't have to play by someone else's rules. You don't owe anyone an emotional reaction, and you don't need to prove your worth to those who fail to see it. This is about reclaiming your space, your peace, and your dignity. Too often, when someone is disrespectful, we feel the need to defend ourselves, argue our case, or worse, let it slide to avoid making a scene. But the silent stare, it's not about being aggressive, it's about showing that you're grounded, calm, and confidently in control of your emotions. It's also about holding others accountable. People who frequently disrespect others often do it without a second thought. They've never been called out or faced real consequences for their poor behavior. When you give them that silent, deadpan look, it's like holding up a mirror. Suddenly, they're faced with their own behavior. You're not telling them they're wrong, you're showing them, and most people don't like what they see in that moment. That's why it works. I've noticed that the silent stare does more than just make the other person back off. It also reinforces your sense of self-worth. By standing silent and steady, you're reminding yourself that their words or actions don't define or shake you. I used to be the type who'd nervously laugh off rude comments or try to explain myself when someone questioned my choices. But honestly, that just drained me and made me feel worse. Learning to simply look at someone and let the silence fill the room, without backing down, was a game changer. It feels like a small act of defiance, a quiet yet powerful statement of self-respect. So, if someone's being rude, pushing boundaries, or making you feel small, try the silent stare. Just look at them, let them feel the weight of your calm. You'll be surprised at how uncomfortable it makes them and how empowered it makes you feel. The silent stare says, I respect myself too much to get dragged into your negativity, and that's a message worth sending. 2. Embrace silence as your answer. Here's a little secret weapon that's incredibly underrated: silence. When someone disrespects you, one of the most powerful responses is no response at all. I know what you're thinking. Silence feels passive, almost like you're letting them get away with it, right? But here's the truth: silence is far from passive. It's a choice, and sometimes it's the boldest, loudest answer you can give. When someone's throwing negativity at you, they're trying to pull you into their drama, make you feel small or defensive. But when you don't engage, when you just let their words hang in the air without responding, it forces them to sit with their own behavior. And that silence, it's deafening. Now, here's why this works so well. People who disrespect others usually expect a reaction. They're looking for a fight, a justification, or some form of validation for their behavior. But silence says, I'm not giving you my energy. By not engaging, you keep control of the conversation and show them you're not here to entertain their disrespect. Sometimes, the most powerful way to communicate is by not communicating. It's a quiet, subtle reminder that they're not worth your time or words. I remember once being in a situation with someone who just couldn't resist making these little digs. You know, the type of person who hides their insults as jokes and tries to pass them off as harmless fun. So one day, he says something completely unnecessary about my work, clearly just to get a rise out of me. Normally, I would have tried to explain myself, or maybe even fired back a comment, but this time, I just looked at him, raised an eyebrow, and said absolutely nothing. I let his words hang in the air, letting him feel that awkward, silent pause. And you know what? He didn't know what to do. He looked at me, then looked down, mumbled something, and moved on. That moment was the last time he tried pulling that with me. It was like he realized that if I wasn't reacting, there was no power to be gained. And that's the beauty of silence. It starves disrespect of the attention it craves. Here's the deeper message: when you choose silence, you're choosing yourself. You're saying, I value my peace over your opinion of me. And that's not just empowering, it's revolutionary. So often, we feel pressured to respond, to explain ourselves, to defend our choices, or prove our worth to people who, frankly, aren't interested in respecting us. But by embracing silence, you're refusing to play by their rules. You're taking a stand without lifting a finger. You're letting them know, you're not worth my words. And it's not just about controlling the situation, it's about reclaiming your energy. Silence is like a filter. It keeps your peace intact by blocking out the negativity that others try to project onto you. The moment you stop feeling the need to respond to every rude comment, every passive-aggressive jab, you free yourself. You stop giving people access to your inner world, and you start living on your own terms. I'll be real with you. Learning to use silence wasn't easy for me. I used to think that if I didn't defend myself, I'd look weak or passive, but I started noticing something interesting. Every time I responded to people who disrespected me, I'd end up drained and frustrated. But when I held my tongue, when I let their comments pass by like white noise, I realized that I felt lighter, stronger, more in control. It's like I took back a piece of my power every time I chose silence over reaction. So here's my challenge to you. The next time someone disrespects you, just pause, take a deep breath, look them in the eye, and say nothing. Let your silence speak for itself. You might be surprised by how uncomfortable they get and how freeing it feels for you. Embrace silence as your answer, because sometimes saying nothing is the most powerful statement of all. Stop explaining your choices. Alright, this one's going to hit home for a lot of us. 3. Stop explaining your choices. Have you ever noticed that every time you make a personal decision, there's always someone who wants to know why? Why did you choose that? Why didn't you go to that event? Why did you leave that stable job? It seems many people feel entitled to know the reasons behind every decision you make, but here's the truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation about how you live your life. That choice is yours alone, and you don't need to justify it. This might sound a bit against the grain, but let's be honest, when someone questions your decisions, they usually don't genuinely want to understand. They want to judge, they want to pressure you into rethinking or doubting yourself, or simply feel better about their own choices by making you second-guess yours. You don't have to play along. When you stop explaining yourself, you regain control, showing them that your life isn't open for debate or evaluation. Why do people feel entitled to explanations in the first place? Often, it's because your decisions challenge their view of the world. Maybe you're taking risks they're too scared to try, or perhaps you're stepping out of a comfort zone they find reassuring. But just because your independence makes them uncomfortable doesn't mean you need to ease their discomfort. Your life isn't a public service announcement, and you don't owe anyone explanations for your choices. I remember when I decided to change careers, leaving a stable job for something I was passionate about, even though it came with greater risks. People reacted as if I'd announced I was moving to Mars. Everyone asked why I'd give up a stable job. At first, I tried to explain about my passion and my plans, but the more I explained, the more people questioned and made me doubt myself. Then one day when someone asked, I simply replied, because I want to. No details, no explanation, and let me tell you, it felt amazing. The silence that followed was everything. People didn't know how to respond because I had taken away their right to question my choices, and you know what? Eventually, they stopped asking. This is the beauty of not explaining yourself. It sets you free. When you stand firm in your truth, knowing that your decisions are valid simply because you made them, you stop wasting energy on explanations and start putting that energy into truly living the life you want. There's a deeper lesson here. Your life doesn't need audience approval. Not every decision has to be analyzed or approved by others. And when you stop explaining yourself, you're telling everyone, I'm confident enough in my choices that I don't need your approval. Think about it. When was the last time you saw someone truly confident breaking down their decisions for others? Probably never, because those who master their own lives don't seek outside validation. They know the only approval that matters is their own. I've been there. I used to give everyone a whole PowerPoint on why I was doing something, just to get their support, but over time I realized that explaining to everyone only made me doubt my choices. So I set a policy with myself that, if someone asked me about a decision, I'd give a short answer, maybe 1 or 2 sentences. If they pushed further, I'd smile and move on. And you know what? Life became so much lighter the more I stopped explaining, the more confident I became in my choices. So here's my challenge to you. Next time someone questions your choice, resist the urge to explain. Just say, because I want to, or it's the right choice for me. And let the silence speak for itself. Watch how powerful that simple statement can be. You'll feel stronger, more in control, and more at peace with yourself. And the best part? You'll realize that your choices don't need anyone else's approval. They hold value simply because you made them. Before we move on to the next solution, if you're liking the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel with the bell so you don't miss out on future videos. And if you enjoy this kind of content as much as I do, comment "Love this wisdom." 4. Keep your distance. Let's be real, sometimes the best way to handle people who don't respect you is to just keep your distance. I know it sounds harsh, maybe even a little cold, but here's the hard truth. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. And if someone's consistently disrespecting you, one of the healthiest moves you can make is to give yourself some space from them. This doesn't mean you hate them or that you're being dramatic. It means you respect yourself enough to protect your energy. Keeping your distance isn't about being mean or ignoring people, it's about choosing where and how you spend your time and energy. Imagine your life as a limited access club. Not everyone gets in VIP pass. If someone's constantly crossing your boundaries, making you feel small, or just radiating negativity, why on earth would you keep them close? It's okay to step back. In fact, it's crucial. Distance can give you the clarity to see things as they really are, free from the fog of emotional manipulation or guilt. Think about it. When you keep people who disrespect you close, it's like inviting them to a mental and emotional buffet where they take, criticize, and judge as much as they want. And then we wonder why we feel drained, anxious, or frustrated. Giving yourself space from these people is an act of self-preservation. It's about protecting your mental health, preserving your peace, and making room for people who actually respect and uplift you. Letting go of the guilt around distancing yourself can be liberating. You're not obligated to keep disrespectful people in your orbit. I'll share a little story. I once had a friend who would always find a way to make snide comments about every choice I made, my career, my relationships, even my taste in music. At first, I thought, well, that's just how they are, maybe I'm overreacting. So I kept them around, kept trying to brush it off, thinking it wasn't that big of a deal, but over time, those little jabs started getting under my skin. I realized I was walking on eggshells, always bracing myself for the next criticism, the next joke that felt more like a punch. One day I decided to try a different approach. I didn't make a big announcement or call them out, I just started limiting my time with them. Instead of seeing them every week, I'd see them maybe once a month, and guess what? I felt lighter, I felt freer. And in that space, I realized just how toxic that friendship had become. Distancing myself gave me the mental clarity to see that I deserved better friends who would build me up instead of tearing me down. Here's the thing. Some people are going to tell you that keeping your distance is selfish. They'll say, but they're family or you've been friends for years. It can feel uncomfortable, maybe even a little taboo, to admit that someone you know well just isn't good for you. Society tells us to be loyal, forgiving, and nice, but at what cost? Here's a little secret: protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's necessary. You're not here to be anyone's emotional punching bag or their constant source of validation. Sometimes the best way to show someone you've had enough is by simply stepping back. Here's where it gets deep. Keeping your distance is a powerful reminder that you are your own priority. You don't have to play the role someone else has assigned to you. You don't owe anyone access to your mind, your time, or your emotions. When you put a little space between yourself and disrespectful people, you're making a statement that your well-being comes first, and that's not just self-care, it's self-respect. Distance also gives you the chance to recenter, to focus on the relationships that matter, the ones that genuinely uplift you. Think about it. The more time you spend around people who respect you, the more confident and fulfilled you feel. The less time you spend around those who tear you down, the less room they have to impact your thoughts, your mood, and your life. I used to feel so guilty about distancing myself from people, even if they weren't treating me well. I'd think, what if they think I don't care? Or maybe I'm overreacting. But over time, I learned that distancing myself wasn't just about removing negativity, it was about creating space for growth. When I started giving myself permission to distance from disrespectful people, I felt a new kind of freedom. I had more energy, more peace, and a clearer vision of who I wanted in my life. So here's my challenge to you. Think about the people in your life who constantly disrespect you, who make you feel small or drained. Then ask yourself, do they really deserve this much access to me? 5. Hold your head high. Have you ever felt like someone was deliberately trying to make you feel small, as if they enjoyed belittling you? In those moments, you might have heard the classic advice, hold your head high. This may sound simple, even cliched, but in reality, it's a powerful tool when dealing with people who lack respect. When someone disrespects you, they're often looking to see you lower yourself, to make you question your own worth. They want you to bow your head, to step back, but when you stand tall and hold your head high, you're sending a silent message that says, I know my value, and nothing you do will diminish it. The power of this gesture lies in confidence. Confidence can make others uncomfortable, especially those who habitually put others down. They rely on the idea that their words or actions can control you, can make you waver. But when you refuse to let their disrespect affect you, when you walk tall and self-assured, you're showing them that they don't hold that power. You're unbreakable, and that throws them off balance, making them question their own power rather than yours. I remember once dealing with someone who seemed to take pleasure in throwing digs my way whenever we met. You know the type, always smirking, always with a joke that feels more like an attack. At first, I tried to brush it off, but honestly, it bothered me. Every time I was around them, I felt like I had to put up a shield to protect myself. Then one day, I decided I was done feeling small. I walked in, head high, and each time they made a snide remark, I just looked at them, smiled, and continued as if nothing had happened. The incredible thing was that they started to back off. They could sense that their words no longer reached me, that I'd risen above it all, and their power began to fade. There's something magnetic about holding your head high. It's like an invisible wall, a psychological shield that only you can create. People who don't respect you tend to dislike this because it disrupts their worldview. They want to believe they can dominate you, that they somehow own a part of you. When you walk with confidence, it shatters. Their script breaks down the narrative they've created. Sometimes this may make you a target, but remember that holding your head high isn't for them, it's for you. It's an expression of self-respect, a way of living with confidence in your own worth without needing anyone else's validation. Holding your head high is also a profound message of self-respect. It says no matter what you say or do, I still see myself as deserving of respect. Self-worth isn't something you wait for others to grant you, it's something you give yourself. You live as if you already have everything you need, because the truth is, you do. Holding your head high reminds you that you are the main character in your own story, that no one else's opinion has the right to make you feel less. Initially, this wasn't easy for me. I used to bow my head, avoid eye contact, shrinking myself to avoid being hurt when faced with criticism, but over time, I realized that every time I held my head high, every time I refused to let someone's negativity seep into my soul, I felt stronger. It was a reminder to myself that my worth doesn't rely on anyone's approval. I could stand tall and proud of who I am. Holding your head high is not just about physical posture, it's about mental posture too. When you walk into a room, do it as if you belong there. Don't shrink yourself to fit someone else's idea of who you should be. If someone throws a nasty comment your way, let it pass. They're not seeing the real you, they're just projecting their own insecurities onto you. So the next time you face disrespect, take a deep breath, straighten your shoulders, hold your head high and look them in the eye as if to say, I see you, but I'm above this. You'll feel a surge of confidence, a sense of peace in knowing their words have no power over you. Remember, respect starts with you. The more you respect yourself, the less room there is for others' disrespect to cling to you. Stand tall, embrace your worth, and know that you're worthy of every ounce of confidence. So now you know a few ways to handle those who can't see your value. Life is too short to twist yourself to fit into the views of people who don't appreciate your worth. Remember, you don't need anyone's permission to stand tall, protect your peace, and live life on your own terms. Thank you so much for watching. If you found something valuable in this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more content on taking control of your life and building the confidence to thrive. Don't forget to share this video with anyone who might need a reminder to stand strong. And hey, leave a comment below if you have a story about handling disrespect or setting boundaries. I'd love to hear it. Until next time, Take care, stay strong, and remember that respect starts with you.